Live. This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. I do believe in Mark 16, verse 17, which says, "These signs shall follow those that believe in my name, they shall cast out devils." B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from every person who is even thinking about doing evil deeds to our broadcast anywhere on the internet. You unclean spirits, immediately depart from these people, never return unto them again. Depart from every person who lives in the same house as them. Depart from every person who works in the same work unit as them, as well as every person who works within 100 meters of them. And you unclean spirits shall not communicate with these people, appear to them, guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, protect them against their enemies or competitors for a period of 1 year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. In Luke 10, it says you have the power to tread over, you can tread over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So today we're going to have a very, very exceptional Bible study combined with current events, and it's going to be extremely unexpected by you. The Lord showed me this stuff. I didn't dream it up. And it's going to make sense to you. It's going to make perfect sense. It's going to be a round peg in a round hole. Nice, easy, smooth fit. And we'll have a good time. And we're going to do a bunch of binding and loosing, and I'm going to take you to a level on that I haven't really taken you, because there's some things I just haven't told you. But I think now's the time. Spiritual warfare stuff. Okay. Let me see. What's going on with my cable here? It's all twisted and discombobulated. Let's see what we can do. Whoa, it's dead. Hold on. It's a tangled mess. Almost fixed. And that's it. Fixed. Okay. Let me jump into the live stream. Make sure we got a live stream. Wait a minute. I don't have sound. Something's not right. Let's check. Should have sound. Wait a minute. Okay, I think we got sound now. Let's test it. Do we got sound? Do we got sound? Do we have sound? Do we have? I think we got sound now. Let's test it. Yeah. All right. We're back in business. Okay. So what is going on is what I'm going to show you is what Jehovah is showing me, and that is he's paving the way or making it easy for Israel these days. He's lifting a lot of the pressure off Israel, paving the way for Elijah to appear openly in Malachi 3 and train the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord, and the next temple to descend from heaven. Now, the next temple is not built, it comes down from heaven. It's not New Jerusalem. I certainly know the difference. And the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel know, all around the world, they know it's just no secret. The church just doesn't tell it to you, but it's rather obvious if you read Ezekiel 37, the last three verses. Probably should go through that because some of you don't know it. It only takes a minute, and it's pretty obvious when somebody shows it to you. If you just scan it yourself and you don't know what you're looking for, well, you may not get it. Ezekiel 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make of shalom or peace with them, speaking of Israel. So it's talking about redemption. It shall be an everlasting covenant, everlasting life, everlasting covenant. Get it? With, now the word everlasting is the everlasting life word, olam. Covenant with them, and I will place them. Now, this is obviously a new covenant, right? So a lot of people pick at me because they don't like the fact that I point out that the law has changed since Moses and Yeshua came. Okay, they don't want to hear that. What about this? That's another change. What about the law of the next temple in Ezekiel 43? That's another change. See, I don't want to hear any of this. An everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them. The word for place is Natan. It's 5414, Strong's number. Remember that. I will place them. That's the next Exodus and people coming to Israel, the Israelites and the true believers. Multiply them. That probably is reference to lots of children. Be fruitful and multiply. That's what I think that means. And will set my sanctuary. Now, why they use the word Natan 54:14, 7 or so words earlier, and say place, and then now they say set? Because they're trying to confuse you, the stinking rats. What? No offense, rats. I'm talking about the little rats. They're kind of cute. But, okay. And I will place. So let's use place. And will place my sanctuary, my temple, in the midst of them. The middle of Israel is Jerusalem, forevermore. That's the old word for everlasting. See how they keep changing the meaning of the word to mess with your head? My That's the actual tabernacle, which, if you read 2 Maccabees 2, chapter 2, Jeremiah the prophet, before the Babylonian captivity, hid it in Mount Nebo, the mountain that, or Nemo, I think it's whatever, Nemo, that Moses died on, where he saw the promised land but didn't enter. And Jeremiah sealed, Jeremiah in Hebrew, sealed up the entrance to this cave. He put the tabernacle in, and nobody could find it, and said it's there until the days that Jehovah shows mercy to Israel. Those days are knocking at the door right now. It would take a Levite to carry that thing back, obviously. My tabernacle also shall be within. My thoughts is the tabernacle being portable will be what's in the wilderness when the people enter the bond of the covenant and pass under the rod. What's been done once will be done again. The tabernacle was in the. That is found in Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 33, not specifically mentioning the tabernacle, but talking about the people going into the wilderness before they come to Israel, and the ones that are going to lie and cheat and adultery and steal and defy the Lord, they're not going to get into Israel. They'll probably die in the wilderness again. What's been done once will be done again. Yea, I will be their God, their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen, the Goyim, shall know that I, Jehovah, Ani Jehovah, do sanctify, no, do make holy Israel, when my temple, my sanctuary, shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Now, if a bunch of rabbis got a lot of construction equipment and smack together a temple, are the heathen going to sit there and say, oh, we know God made Israel holy, they got a temple? Of course not. Of course not. But if it came down from heaven and looked like it came down from heaven, and also the mountain that it sits on popped up all of a sudden, well, that's different. Then they're going to know it. Oh, if a bunch of rabbis got a lot of construction equipment and smacked together a temple. Okay, we got sound again. Okay, just checking. All right. So we covered that. All right. And that's some of the next prophetic stuff. Now, this is me talking. This is what I think I've been shown. I don't have a scripture. Do I think, now this should make common sense to you. Do I think that Elijah will be there in Jerusalem teaching the Levites how to do the sacrifices and offerings, which would mean at the very least there would be a properly cleansed altar, a brazen altar. And in Ezekiel 43, towards the end of the chapter, we're given the instructions as to how to construct this altar, how it will be built. Okay? It's right there. It's a brazen altar, and it's an 8-day cleansing. Okay? Now, very likely, this is my iPad is taking psychedelic hallucinogens again and jumping around on me. Hold on a minute. Let me get my thing straightened out again. Get this down and almost fixed it. Okay. Okay. So normally it would be with a tabernacle or a temple. Since I'm thinking the tabernacle will be for those in the wilderness, I'm thinking the temple descends from heaven, and it's going to be on Mount Zion, which is not here anymore. Many centuries ago, some army came into Israel, and to make sure they didn't have a temple again, the Israelites, they had an army take shovels and pickaxes and take the mountain away. Okay, See, this is Satan using the people of the nations to make sure God doesn't raise Israel up to be the head of the nation. Satan knows that's going to happen, but his people don't think it's going to happen. He lies to them. Do you think Satan tells the truth to the other unclean spirits? I highly doubt it. He's the father of lies. He lies to everybody all the time. And the thing is, when they lie that much, they probably start believing their own lies. Satan is insane. He has been insane from when he was up in heaven. And he's worse. Satan is worse. Okay? He's a complete jerk. Okay? He doesn't know what he's doing. All right. Moving forward. So I don't think Elijah's going to be there working while the missiles and the drones, the attack drones, are coming in. Do you? I don't think you do. Now, who the punishment that the Lord would have to dish out or would dish out, likely, if he sends a temple down, builds the map up supernaturally, sends a temple down here from heaven. It looks like it's from heaven. And the nations hit it with missiles and drones. What would happen is way more significant than what's going to happen in prophecy. I mean, but prophecy is pretty bad, so maybe it does, but I don't know. I'm not thinking that he's going to do that. I'm not thinking that Elijah's going to be sitting there training the Levites and then the sirens are going to go off and they're going to say, come on, let's go in the bomb shelter. No, I don't think so. What I think would happen is Elijah would go out and burn up whoever did it. And God would be very happy to tell Elijah who did it. And can you toss a demon out 3,000 miles away? Yeah. Is it possible that Elijah could call some sort of plagues down on the people that did it 3,000 miles away? 8,000 number. Of course. What could the plague be? Well, hail the size of basketballs is a good one, right? Imagine getting hit with a piece of hail about this big, dropping. That would hit you in the shoulder. Your whole bone structure would fracture. You'd be like, oh, hit you in the head. Good night. Hit you in the foot. Probably kill you. Break your foot. Kill your foot. Oh, what about fire and brimstone? How about hail and then fire and brimstone to melt it? How about a flood? How about annoying bugs? Could he call, if some country did it, could Elijah call down 24 million rats into the capital city? Why not? How about locusts? Think there's a big difference for Jehovah between locusts and rats? I don't. Squirrels, rats, mice, gophers, locusts, palmer worms, cankerworms, whatever you want. Lantern flies, I don't know, you name it, water going to blood. So Elijah would stop it. Okay. They not only could have the fire come out of their mouth, they could call down all the plagues, any plagues they want, blindness, deafness, lameness, right? leprosy would work. What if they did to you could put some sort of a plague on them where their skin is with boils and stuff. Can't even sit down. Okay. All right. That's a premise I don't have a scripture for, but we certainly don't see the concept or the era of missiles and drones and terrorists and stuff. One lies is working in Malachi 3. We just don't see it. I'll go there and read it for you. Some of you are not familiar with it. So it's not a long chapter. Behold, I will send my Malach, that's messenger, the same word as Malach is really Malach. It's kind of a play on words, and that's what Elijah is, a messenger. And he shall prepare the way before me, before Yeshua. Now, John the Baptist did that, but of course it didn't finish. And when Yeshua came to earth the last time, it wasn't to establish the kingdom of Israel. Okay, so it was a different thing back then, okay, before me. And Adonai, the Lord, in the softer way, it's not Elohim, it's Adonai, whom you see. Now, people in Israel would call their employer Adonai, stuff like that. It's not Elohim. They never call their employer Elohim. That's blasphemy. You understand? That's the glory of God of Israel. Uh, they are very aware. They call them the Shekinah glory, but Shekinah is not a word in the Bible. Shall suddenly come to the glory of God of Israel, Michael, even the Malach of the covenant. Well, the Malach of the covenant, I believe, goes back to Elijah, who the Israelites correctly agree or believe will teach them the Torah, because they don't know the Torah now. They know the Talmud, which has nothing to do with the Torah, really. Well, it has a little to do, but it's an extra biblical nonsense. Covenant whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah. So I want to read you a message. Now, when you live in Israel, they machine gun out blank, messages to the people in Israel. They mass blast them. And I want to read this message to you. Of course, it's the holiday season here. Let me make it in English. It's not going to do you any good to. Let me read it. Okay. It's Shabbat before Yom Kippur. Keep it, and it's considered that you've kept it all year long. This is a promise, okay? So what are they telling us? They're telling us a lousy thing, thanks to the rabbis, which are like the pastors, same cut out of the same satanic cloth. What they're saying is if you observe Yom Kippur, the 24-hour day, it's just like you were good all year round. See, this is hypocrisy. Telling them you could go do what you want, just when it comes to Yom Kippur, you be good and everything works for you. You could, sue your fellow Israelite, rip them off, scam them, fraud them, rob them, blaspheme them, hate him, bother him, adultery with his wife. Literally, I'm talking here, okay? And everything will be okay. You eat kosher, go to the synagogue. follow Yom Kippur and everything's okay for you. You're all perfect. Don't worry. That's not going to work with Jehovah. You don't go around intentionally sinning and then try to clean it up. So they're trained to follow the physical aspects of the law, not the weightier things of the law, like ripping off the orphan, the strangers, adultery, all of this stuff that they do, suing each other, and, ripping each other off, lying in court to sue each other, paying off the officials to take advantage of each other, all of this stuff, corrupting the government officials with bribes, all of this, okay? It's not going to get set aside because you were a good boy or girl on Yom Kippur. Now, the rabbis teach them that it's very important that they observe Shabbat correctly. Oh, you don't put a light on. If you have a non-Jew living in you, you got to make sure he breaks Shabbat. He's not allowed to keep Shabbat. That's contrary to the scripture. He's supposed to keep Shabbat. But they say, no, he's got to put a light on and he's got to do something he's not supposed to do. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, they just have cultivated sins into the people to a deep level to keep the people sinning, and that keeps God punishing Israel. And the punishing Israel means they stay in control. They're a curse on Israel. That's exactly what they are. Look what they did with Yeshua. They became a curse on Israel. Stephen told them, and then they stoned him. But God, I believe, took him out of his body before he got stoned. Okay. All right. So you come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire. Again, a reference to fire coming out of the mouth, but it says like. But let's check the words. It says he, let's check, yeah, who, he, and it says is like a refiner's. Okay, let's check for that. The word is number 6884, Sraf. It's pretty accurate. Refine, yeah, it's fine, refine. But it says is like a refiner's fire. The is like a is gone. It's not there. It's not. They made it up. So he, it's saying he, and then it says refiner, and then I believe it has the word esh. Yes, which is fire. So it's saying refiner's fire, not like a refiner's fire. And then it says like full of soap, probably the same thing, full of soap. But he's not a refiner's fire, and he's not full of soap. He's sort of like that. So you can, you make it more powerful to read it. Okay. And he shall sit, and then it says as a refiner's fire. He shall sit, and it says refiner. So it says sit. It should say chef. Let me see what it says here. No, it doesn't say sit. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay, so it says sit. Refiner and purifier. So he's sitting like a workman refining gold and silver. Remember, God says he has many, good objects in his house. Some are made of gold, some silver, some bronze, and so forth. Okay. And he shall purify the sons of Levi. Purify. We should check this word. It's close. Yeah, I go with purify works. The sons, that should be, okay. Yeah, sons of Levi, and purge that, there was an actual, you know, one of Jacob's sons, so you're a descendant of his, okay. And purge them as gold and silver, getting the impurities out so you can purify them, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Offer Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Okay. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah. As in the days of old and in former years. Now, when the offerings are correct, blessings of the Lord come on Israel, and that's probably when Elijah and Enoch burn up the enemies, laying siege to Israel. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers. That's all you say. That's a death penalty offense. And against the adulterers, death penalty offense. And against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling and his wages, the workers, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger and fear not me. They were all going to be cut off. 2/3 of Israel goes. That's in Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9. And I should read that so you understand how it ties in. The church will never tell you these things. Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land call Haaretz, land of Israel, saith Jehovah, two parts therein, two parts in the land of Israel shall be cut off and die. That's obvious what it means. And the third shall be left therein. And these are the ones that go through redemption and get raised up. And I will bring the third part through the fire, the purification, like exactly what Elijah's doing with the Levites, and refine them as silver is refined, exactly what Elijah's doing with the Levites, and will try them as gold is tried. It's again referencing back to Elijah. They shall call on my name, well, they got to know his name, Jehovah, because the rabbis teach them that they're not allowed to say that name, nor are they allowed to say Jesus or Yeshua. And I will hear them. Well, when he starts hearing it, that's a real good thing. And I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Okay? See how it ties together? You see what don't teach you in the verses. Here it is, right in your Bible. You think I made it up? Now, you can go reject me because I read these scriptures, say things about me because I read these scriptures, but what you're really doing is you're rejecting the scriptures. And Yeshua says, if you reject knowledge, I will reject you. So let me find you that verse because some of you might not know it's there. Hang on, I'll get it for you. Well, Hosea 4, verse 6 says something. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of my God. I will also forget thy children. Okay? See, that's how they are. They don't want it. They don't want it. Hang on a minute. Are the heathen going to sit there and say, "Oh, we know God on my name"? Well, they got it. Okay. So right now there's tremendous pressure on Israel. They're meeting at the UN all the time. They're trying to cram a two-state solution down Israel's throat. They're running around saying that, uh, Israel, of course, is genocidal maniacs. They got to stop the war in Gaza. They want it to stop. They want to leave Hamas intact. They superficially say, "Oh, you got to return the hostages." They're all on Hamas's side. They want to save Hamas, leave Hamas in Gaza to kill Israel again. And Netanyahu seems to cooperate with that, or he's a bigger moron than I think and doesn't know how to get rid of Hezbollah or Hamas or the PID, or doesn't know what to do about the Houthis. We have to leave room for this lunatic liar to just be stupid. Not only is he mean and cruel, he's also stupid and doesn't know how to do it. That's another possibility. But I think he does, and his generals do. He just doesn't want to. Okay. So these are not the times that Elijah's going to go out there and start working. Iran's getting ready to attack us again. They're rebuilding their missile launch facilities that we destroyed in the 12-day war. And Yemen keeps attacking us every day. And every now and then Hamas launches some missiles or something. So Hamas got to be finished. So if Israel finishes Hamas in the present state, they're already starting to put sanctions on Israel. It's going to be a little bit worse. Now, as we get closer to redemption, Satan wants to punish Israel and beat it into the ground. But that's not Jehovah. And what Jehovah wants is what counts. So what I believe now what's going on is Jehovah is moving to start taking this tremendous pressure off Israel. One of the immediate effects of that is that Netanyahu will be forced to shut Hamas off. Whether or not we get the hostages back, I don't know, but he'll get to shutting Hamas off. Okay? They don't have a good future. And that'll disable them so they can no longer attack Israel. Yemen will become a desolate wasteland forever. Nobody will ever live there again. The Yemen government and the Yemen people are going to be held responsible. Listen, this is a sham. The government of Yemen, if they start attacking Israel, everybody's going to rise up in the UN. Oh, you're starting wars. What are you doing? Sanctions. Israel will attack Yemen and all that. So what they do is they let a little fringe group of idiots rise up and start their own kind of country within a country called the Houthis. They had their own prime minister, and they have cities that belong to them, and they waged the war, and then they say, oh, don't blame us, the Houthis are doing it, we can't stop them. And the British have been in there trading them to stop them, and it's just not going to happen. They're never going to do it. They're friends with them. They think like them. They're never going to do it. The same as Lebanon and Hezbollah. It's never going to happen. Okay? The million-dollar question is, why did Netanyahu leave the Hezbollah somewhat intact over there in Lebanon? And they say they're never going to disarm. And the Lebanese government, the army's never going to do it. They're just going to say they're going to do it, and they're going to give you the dates they'll have it done by, and then they'll just keep extending the dates. That's all that you're going to see. That ain't never going to come to pass. Okay, so we keep attacking Hezbollah every day. This has been going on for many months. So if you add up all those attacks, targeted assassination, different physical facilities they have, storage facilities, and command centers and stuff like that, the damage has been pretty substantial. But it happens a little bit every day. But you add it all up, it's quite substantial. The people of Lebanon don't care about Israel. They don't care what happens to Israel. Go kill Israel. We don't care. The so-called Christians in Lebanon are mostly Catholic, as I understand it. And the Catholics are amillennial, and they don't have any use for Israel in their doctrine. Israel killed Christ, and they're finished with God. That's it. Don't worry about them. That's why I went to great pains educating you guys on amillennialism. It's huge. It's bigger than Schofieldism and Darbyism, and the evangelical and the Pentecostal, because the Catholics are amillennial. So you got about 1 billion Catholics, then you got to add in a good piece of churchianity, and you don't have much left that thinks Israel has a role here. And the ones that do think Israel has a role most, if not all of them, think that they're going to go up to heaven in a rapture, a left behind rapture, and come back after 7 years and reign over Israel with a rod of iron and keep them in line, like, you dumb Jew, whack, 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 you stop it. This is what these sickos believe, okay? So far from the Bible. Okay. It says that Yeshua will reign over the heathen with a rod of iron. There's no scripture that has these churchianity people reigning over God's Israel with a rod of iron. I mean, this is a joke, but they believe it. There is no left behind rapture in the Bible. Pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib is all wrong. Read John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54. 4 times Yeshua said everybody goes up on the same day, the last day. So that's after the millennium's over and everything. All right. So moving forward. So if you believe that Elijah is going to be out there teaching the Levites and they'll either be the tabernacle or an altar or the temple or all of them there. And the missiles are coming in, and the terrorists are stabbing and shooting people there, right while Elijah's working, and drones are coming in, and all that. Come on, I don't see it. Okay, so God wants the pressure off Israel now. So how is he doing it? Well, the sanctions on Iran, which is snapback sanctions, start the 27th September, which coincidentally 8 p.m. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know 8 p.m. in which time zone, I don't know. It could be Europe time, it could be UN time in New York, Iran time. I think it's safe to assume by the time it hits 8 p.m. in New York, it's Iran time and Europe time's ahead of New York time. So by the time it hits 8 p.m. in New York, the sanctions are in place, which means the SWIFT system is now closed to Iran. Kaput. No more. I understand that they sell a massive amount of their oil to China. I heard 90%, but I'm not sure. But it's a huge amount. And they give China a sweetheart deal. I think about 40 a barrel or something like that. A very, very sweet deal. I don't know exactly what the price is. And that keeps China in their court, and China invested some money in infrastructure in Iran pertaining to oil, I think, or maybe something else. So the Chinese need massive amounts of oil. They don't have it. So they could buy it from Russia under normal circumstances, but Russia's oil is down. Russia has suspended exportation of certain kinds of oil products because they don't have enough. Their refineries are repeatedly hit by some over and over again. They suffered damage, they're out of action, and his production is down. So Russia's not in a great position to help Iran out very much. America could, but that would cost Iran a lot of money, more than what they're used to paying. So they need Iran. And they have every intention of continuing to buy from Iran. Now, with the SWIFT system down for Iran, which of ours, Iran might have to lower the price again to China, because I don't know how China's going to pay them. But China might pay them with money in a Chinese bank. In other words, give the Iranian oil company a bank account in China and let them and pay them in renminbi, which is the Chinese currency, which they could then convert into other currencies and buy products like corn and wheat. Yeah, okay. If they could get that stuff shipped in. But the sanctions are likely going to stop everybody. In other words, getting tomatoes or corn or wheat or barley shipped in is going to be a problem because the sanctions are going to stop people in the UN from doing commerce with them. Now, there are countries that aren't going to listen, like China and Russia. Because there's nothing the UN could do because China and Russia got permanent seats on the council, the Security Council. So there's not much that they could do to them, but they'll have to walk softly. So um, China might tell Iran they need a better price because now it's inconvenient to pay you, or they may not. Now, opened up to the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Authority or Administration, whatever it is. Okay, tied to the UN. And the UN was in there the other day. They said they're enriching uranium now at 90%, which is military weapons grade, right? Not for home heating, you know. So that didn't help things. And it's not stopping snapback sanctions. The other day, China and Russia tried UN Security Council motion to delay the snapback sanctions, and it was declined. So the snapback sanctions are on, and they're going in effect tonight at 8 p.m., whatever time that is, probably New York UN time. And Iran is going to suffer. It also prevents Iran from buying or selling weapons like drones or missiles or guns or anything. Okay, they can't buy from anybody and they can't sell. Now, again, China and Russia can just decide they're going to break these sanctions, and I don't know what will happen to them. Very likely nothing. It's not going to be bulletproof, but Russia's not in any great position to help Iran. They can't even help themselves with Ukraine, can they? No. No. So now we need to take a look at gold and silver, because they're reflecting this, but let me tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet regarding gold and silver. You ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to talk about that right now. Okay. Let me look into the live stream for a minute, see if we get any questions. I do answer questions if you want to post questions. I also take prayer requests. Okay. Let me look into the live stream. I'm just checking the sound and picture. Everything seems fine. The sound that went out was apparently my fault. I had touched the wrong button on the phone. I don't know how I did that, but it appears I saw the button on mute, so I just took the mute button off before. That was the problem. I don't know how it happened because I checked for it and it wasn't on. Okay, so what's going on with gold and silver? This is pretty interesting. Put it in my notes. I worked it all out. I don't know where it is. Let me get through my notes. There's just a few other things worth hearing about. A official in the government of India told Trump that they will buy Iranian and Venezuela oil instead of Russian oil. Well, see, these snapback sanctions on Iranian oil is not something Trump did, it's the whole UN. So India may decide they want to ignore that, or they may not. But Trump is trying to get India stopped buying Russian oil to break Russia's back economically. So I don't know if that's going to hold. Iran, the nuclear inspections have resumed. Oh, I told you that, but that's not saving them. Iran said they're going to drop out of the IAEA treaty if the sanctions come on, which is going to make things worse for Iran. The United Nations has added nearly. This thing got a mind of its own, and it's an evil mind. This iPad. No, it did it again. All right. I don't want to go on a tirade. Let me just get it back. Nearly 70 more companies to a blacklist firms from 11 countries that it says are complicit in violating Palestinian human rights through their business ties to Israeli settlers in the West Bank. So they're saying they shouldn't do business with any company in the West Bank, and these people are. See the pressure on Israel? Okay. This is all going to be lifting very soon. I'll work this out for you in a couple of minutes. The new list spotlights companies that do business that's deemed supportive of the settlements, which are construed by many to be illegal under international law. So you see, they create their own laws and say, oh, Israel can't have its own land back that God gave to them by covenant. Oh, no. See why they're going to get wiped out? Jeremiah 30, verse 11. I will destroy all the nations I scattered you into. That's a lot of nations. This also appears in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. You got to wake up to these things. These are unfulfilled. It includes an array of companies like vendors of construction materials and earth movers, as well as providers of security, travel, and financial services. The list, formerly known as a database of companies, now contains 158 companies, the vast majority Israeli. The others are from the United States, Canada, China, Britain, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands and Luxembourg. Well, that was a little interesting. All right, let's see. Let me take some of this stuff off so it's easier to go through this. we'll get there. We'll just go calm and get everything done. Hundreds of diplomats staged a walkout, the Arab diplomats, I should say, at the UN yesterday with Netanyahu talking. And Netanyahu was talking about he's gonna, finish the job in Gaza, and the Israeli military took over the telephones of the Gazan people, and Netanyahu's speech and wound up getting broadcast to the Gazan people through their phones, which probably was to scare them and let them know we could blow their phones up like we blew up the phones of Hezbollah. So it had that meaning, although they never brought that out in the media. There are additionally more yesterday unidentified drones over French military sites. This is probably why Excess called a meeting of the 800 generals and the admirals for Tuesday next week, but it also could be based on Iran, and it could be both Iran and the Russia problem. Now, Poland came out with an announcement that all the people in Belarus that are Polish citizens should get out immediately using any means possible. So something's not making Poland feel good. Belarus is by Poland, and it's full of Russian and Belarusian soldiers, and Belarus is a very close ally to Russia. So I don't know, nations tell their people to leave countries all the time, and usually something happens, but not necessarily a big war or something. I'll read you something about the sanctions so you could get a little more insight. Sanctions are poised to inflict substantial economic damage to Iran, exacerbate a already challenged, fading or failing economy. They target the core revenue streams of Iran, particularly oil exports, which account for a major portion of Iran's economy. Tehran sells over 90% of its crude oil. I'm sure that's a correct figure, but they sell a lot of it to them at discounted rates, and the remainder measures could force even steeper discounts that China will be getting from Iran, which will hurt their economy even more because the same amount of oil will be getting sold, but the amount of revenue coming in would go down, maybe 25% or maybe nothing, we don't know. Early signs of impact include a weakening Iranian rial, that's their currency, against the dollar, and growing pessimism in the business community before implementation. Analysts note that while the practical economic hit may overlap with ongoing U.S. maximum pressure, all right. Even before full implementation, they could have trouble. Analysts note that while the practical economic hit may overlap, okay, we covered that. UN backing adds credibility to the UN backing of these sanctions adds credibility to enforcement efforts, complicating Iran's ability to evade sanctions through shadow networks of or rebuild its nuclear infrastructure site. Overall, this could deepen isolation in global trade, shipping, finance, productivity, worsening inflation, unemployment, and access to technology materials. Well, it also is going to cause a kickback from Iran. Okay? Don't think that Iran is just taking this sitting down. And we're going to talk about what Iran's going to do, what Iran said they're going to do right now. Give me a minute. Okay. Members of what's called the IRGC in Iran and other um, officials in Iran said that what they intend to do now is shut the Persian Gulf. Well, we need to talk about this, what's going to happen, because this is the key thing. And the Iranians, for some time, have said that, and they have positioned their naval assets and missiles onshore. The Straits of Hormuz is a very thin choke point where this is the Persian Gulf, and then there's a choke point, and then you go out here to the Sea of Oman, and then you go to the Indian Ocean. Okay, just to give you an immature depiction. So the way you get from the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world is through the Straits of Hormuz, which is near Iran's land. And Iran could rain missiles from onshore onto ships crossing the Straits of Hormuz that they don't like. That's not hard. Now remember, container ships, grain ships, oil ships, tankers, all these commercial boats don't have missile defense systems. Okay? Why would they? They don't. So what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about some bad stuff here. Because hold on a minute, I lost my glasses. There they are. We're talking about some bad stuff here because 25% of the world's business, let's use that word, money or trade, let's say trade, okay, about 25% of trade goes through the Persian Gulf. In other words, the Straits of Hormuz are needed to pass through. 25% of the world's commerce. Do you understand this? mostly because of oil, and oil is a rather expensive item. Other stuff goes through there too. So oil, well, we're not going to let anybody sell oil. How do you like that? Banking on the cowardice of Trump and the other nations and their reluctance to do anything about it. However, we know from Jeremiah chapter 49, Elam is the word used, that Elam is the name for Iran. Iran is not really a biblical name. So, Elam. And Elam also is supposed to include Iraq. Now, maybe even a piece of Saudi Arabia, maybe not. Maybe not Iraq, but maybe yes. Why I think Iraq is, well, I'll tell you what. Iran has no water right now. Their water is probably 95% depleted, their water reserves, maybe 98. And Iraq is in a similar position. So that's not coincidence. They're the same. Elam gets destroyed badly, and the people that live there have to leave. And they get scattered into every nation of the world and then Iran makes a comeback called Persia in Gog and Magog, probably some 60 or so years from now, roughly, as a guesstimate. Okay, so that's what happens. Now, it looks like it's going to come to pass very shortly. What you need to understand right now is Iran can't continue like it's going. They are mentally ill. They are lunatics. They are obsessed with blood. They kill their own people. They kill other. I mean, they're nuts. Okay, and they want to kill Israel. What would happen when they kill Israel? Well, then they'd want to kill all the Jews around the world, and then they'd want to kill all the Christians, and then all the Buddhists, and then all the Hindus. And then all the atheists and all the communists, and then they would want to kill all the Sunnis and all the Druze, and then the Kurds, and then they would wind up with a very small sect of their own, and they eliminate 95 or 90% of the world. Then that's what they're about. They're complete idiots. The leaders are not Muslims. They say they're Muslims, just like Barack Obama said he was a Muslim, just like Trump says he's a Christian. Biden says he's a Christian. They all say this, it's a joke. What they are is they're Satan bots, and they're doing Satan's wishes, and Satan doesn't want Israel. So his chosen people to wipe out Israel is the Muslim radicals that will listen to the calls from their leaders to kill Israel. And that's what's going on. Okay? So Iran is a threat. Imagine a lot of working and the missiles start raining in Jerusalem and hit the temple and stuff. Okay, so that's not in the picture. Okay? So what is gonna? It doesn't say Elijah shall train the Levites in troubled times with war. That's not in the scriptures. Okay? I think they're pretty peaceful when it's going on. But the nations are mad, they're all stirred up. But let's keep going. Let's remember in Zechariah 12, when they gather in the siege around Judah and Jerusalem, they get trembling. God gives them a trembling. They're scared of something. Well, they're scared of Elijah. Signs and wonders. And Apostle John, too, is probably working openly. Apostle John, I believe, got everlasting life because he had to stay here alive all this time so he could be able to do that without the everlasting life, and that was probably one benefit to it. But imagine Bible studies with him where he tells us what it was like hanging with Yeshua, 2,000 years ago, and tells us a lot of the teachings that he got from Yeshua that are not in the New Testament or the Old Testament. And I would very much like to compare notes with him about spiritual warfare. Remember, the apostles were not highly accurate in when they thought the end was going to come. They thought it was going to come any time now, back then, 2,000 years ago. They didn't quite understand it. But they did their job. And Apostle John is still here. He's in Israel, don't worry. So's Enoch, so's Elijah. They're waiting for the light to go green. And it'll happen soon. Okay, so let's continue. So there's tremendous pressure on Israel now. And Israel is having trouble finishing up the war in Gaza because of all this pressure and a two-state solution and all this stuff. So God is going to remove these obstacles from Israel. So Israel could get rid of the problems, and God's going to help them get rid of it. So Yemen is going to definitely help Iran by closing the Red Sea and the waters under the Red Sea, south of Yemen and south of Saudi Arabia, where they could reach with missiles, and which is maybe going to affect 10 or 15% of the. You add up the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, and the Red Sea, and all the area down there, you're probably going to have at least 35 or 40% of world trade stop. Do you understand how bad that's going to be? Let me break it down for you. And I'm taking you someplace. In addition to that, the price of gasoline, what's going to happen with that? Well, it's going to go at least $120 a barrel right away from 60, 70 or so, right? And there's people that are saying it'll go to 300. What do I say about that? There's people that say 500 and 800 a barrel too, but it's a little bit high. I would think that when Yemen goes to work hard against the waters near Yemen, the Red Sea included, and Iran goes to work against the Straits of Hormuz, you're looking at oil probably creeping from 120 up, as long as it goes on, probably to about 200 a barrel. Now that means that you're going to probably start to see about a 25% increase in everything you buy. People are not going to be able to go to work easily. So let me explain what the economy, why do I say such an increase? Because everything that moves by ship burns oil. And the price of oil is going up through the roof, okay? It may go to 300. It really could. Okay, then you have airplanes that move stuff by airplanes. The fuel, again, oil. They move stuff by train, again, diesel, oil. They move stuff by truck and car, again, oil. Okay? So you're going to pay higher prices because it's moving from other countries on ships, then it's going to ports, then it's going to trucks and trains and trucks again. you're probably going to be 25% up because the companies that are making the goods, that drive in tractors and crop pickers, or they're working in plants burning gas and fuel, they're all, the cost of goods sold, the cost of growing, not just the food, making goods is going up. Well, the plastic bags they put the groceries in got to get manufactured someplace, right? And that's using gasoline one way or another, or fuel, right? Okay. Um, those are, every time you buy food, you need to carry it out in something, right? That's one thing. Containers that they put the food in, the packaging that's being made someplace, right? Clothing, pencils, light bulbs, anything, okay, is going up. And you're probably, I'm not kidding, you're probably looking at about a 25% increase in what you buy. And that's going to cause what? People are going to, a lot of the price rises is going to be going up, 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 up. And companies are going to be jumping their price forward because by the time the distributors order it and they ship it, the price will be high, so they don't want to wind up selling stuff at a too low of a price. They get greedy and they get scared. So what you're going to see is people are going to have to spend a tremendous amount of money on fuel. Three could be $11, $12 a gallon, and they got to go to work or they're cooked. So what's going to happen is people are going to spend money on fuel. They're going to spend money on food. They got to eat. The refrigerator and the cabinets are empty. You got to go. And you can't go to work without the gas. Maybe you could carpool and this and that, but you're going to have to do that. All right. Now, you still need gas to go to the store, to go, you're going to need to burn gas, but people are going to cut down how much gas. There's going to be a lot more people working from home. I agree. Okay. But your home heating oil this winter is going to be very, very, very expensive. People that are paying, maybe in a good area, 300 a month, may be paying 900. People in the New York and Maine and Vermont and New Jersey and Connecticut and up there, they might be paying, 1,000, 1,200 a month to stay warm. What are they going to do? Wear down jackets, gloves, and hats and boots in the house all the time? People will get sick like crazy. People are going to buy food, they're going to put gas in their car, they're going to pay their electric bill, and if they got to pay for their liquid natural gas, they'll pay for that. Okay? They're going to be forced to skipping house payments, skipping car payments. And I don't know what they're going to do about health care. They're going to try to make the health care payments. Companies are going to suffer because the amount of goods being sold is going to drop and layoffs are going to set in. More problems. Unemployment isn't going to help because if unemployment insurance, so you're in a great area, it's 12, 1,500. Maybe it's some places you might get 2,500 a month, but they're not going to make it 4,000 a month right away. It would take a long time before they ever brought it up there. So it's going to be deficient. So people are going to try to keep their lights on, try to keep their car, put some gas in the tank. So when they got to go somewhere, they can. And they're going to try to buy food. They're going to try to buy cheap food. And because consumption is going to diminish. Why? Because the amount of money in the economy is the same, but the amount of goods that money will buy is tremendously diminished, so that much fewer or that much less goods is being manufactured and sold, which means layoffs. Real estate, new housing starts, it'll die. It'll be like none. Okay, foreclosed houses, unless the government in America and other countries steps in, there's going to be a tremendous inventory of foreclosed houses. Okay, none of the people that have jobs are going to be getting increases in their pay, to keep up with it, like 25%. Nobody's going to get that. The only people that will keep up with business owners till they go out of business. Okay, so what else is going to happen? New car sales, they'll go down by 90%. They'll be trying to give the cars away with no down payment, and they'll suspend payments for 6 months. They'll do anything to get people to buy cars or paper, not for any real money, just on paper, right? The luxury good industry is going to collapse to a very good extent, because there's a lot of people that buy luxury goods that aren't very wealthy. They try to look wealthy. Okay? They got a few bucks, but they're not the real thing. They don't have $400 million or anything like that. They try to act like they're wealthy. They're not. They don't have yachts. They don't have private planes. If you have a 250-foot yacht and you got a 8-seat private plane that you own, and you got a big 15, 25,000 square foot house in a really great area, you're not making believe. These other people are. They'll go buy a Mercedes, but they're not going to buy a $900,000 Ferrari. They can't. So are Ferrari sales gonna suffer? Probably a little, but not much. Okay, but you see, they will as it continues, because the wealthy are going to be caving in. They're going to get hit because they own the businesses, and the business sales are going to start dropping like a rock. They're going to have their overhead. They're going to start downsizing, closing plants, maybe not selling it, just laying everybody off except for, 5 maintenance workers to keep the place clean, that kind of thing. So they may lay off 5,500 people and keep 11 or 12 people that are running place. These sort of things could happen. Okay. When the new car people start giving the new cars away, the used car market for cars is going to die. There's going to be a big market for highly economical cars, and the car manufacturers are going to try to make a go with that, and they're going to keep the prices on that stuff rather high. Buy them anyway, and there's not going to be discounts. And okay. Travel, going to Disney, Great America, or the Universal Studios, or Dollywood, or Legoland, or Hersheyland, or amusement parks, or water slides. It's going to go off a cliff. It's already very bad, but it's going to go boom. Disney, when it gets bad, they'll shut 80% of their hotels. They'll keep 1 or 2 hotels open. Okay? And they'll run the parks at, something like 10 in the morning till 5 or 6 at night. So they'll try to have one shift of people in the parks, and they'll hope they make it. And they'll probably operate that way even if they're in the red, because they can't really afford to just shut the park and start closing. That would be going out of business. And who's going to buy Disney in a bad economy? Nobody. Okay, so that's going to not just Disney, all those theme parks and big amusement parks are going to get cruises. They're going to whoop. Their cruise industry is going to be sucking wind for people to get on cruises. They'll start giving you 1 week cruises with a balcony for $600 a month with food, and hope you get on the boat and start buying extras. And they'll give you they'll figure out what the cost of the fuel is, and the payroll, and the wear and tear on the ship, and to run the ship. And that break-even price is what they'll price the tickets at. And they'll hope that people come on and then spend more money when they're on the ship, and that'll be their profit. So their profits will go down by probably 60%, but they'll still have something to show. And they might have to refinance the payments on their cruise ships, because who the heck, if they foreclose on the ship and take it, what are they going to do with it? Nobody's going to buy it. It'll just sit, you know. So that is, of course, ships and Tarshish. So they'll be sitting around idle for the most part. They will probably, instead of running the ships on a cruise every week, they might have to run the ships on a cruise once every 2 or 3 weeks, because they can't get anywhere near enough people on the ship. They'll try sailing with very empty ships, but they'll stop it. Very empty ships are not going to be enticing to people. It's going to be depressing. I'm telling you from having taken a lot of cruises, that part of it is all the action and the hustle and the bustle. And if you start walking around on the deck and the ship's deserted, and you go to the shows and the theater's 10% filled, and you go to the dining room and it's 15-20% filled, or 30%, it doesn't look right, and you're going to wonder about it. Now, I would enjoy it because it would be peaceful. Okay, so they're going to get affected. The airlines are going to get affected. What are they going to do? They're going to keep the jets parked, and they're going to have to charge higher fares, and they're going to have a lot less flights. Okay. Now, you're getting the picture, and this is not just going to affect America and the UK and Italy. It's going to affect Central America, South America, the Caribbean. Why the Caribbean? They're not going to get any tourists from there. Where are they going to come from? And what about South and Central America? Well, their cost of goods sold over there is going to soar too. They've got the same thing: ships, planes, trains, cars, buses, trucks. They got the same problem. Asia has the same problem. Africa, not the problem. Okay, Europe, Middle East, it's all over. So what's going to happen? They're going to tolerate this for a while, Iran, and then they're going to say, Iran, we're tired of you. Okay? You stop it, or we're going to stop you. And Iran's going to say, what? We're not afraid of your threats, your gutless wonders. Because the nations have been gutless wonders, including America. The only one that's not a gutless wonder is us. Right? You know I'm right. Okay, so what's going to happen? India and Pakistan, they both punked out against each other, didn't they? Okay, Ukraine and Russia are not gutless wonders. I forgot that. I'm sorry. They are not gutless wonders. All right. And Iran got some guts, I admit. Okay? And their puppet states do also. They do. So Iran will, of course, activate Iraq. And what happens? Well, they got naval mines. We could say a naval landmine, but a landmine's on land, so we could say a water mine, like a landmine for the water. But it's not something you step on. So it could work on the magnetic feedback from the ship, and a lot of times the landmine is below the surface of the water some feet, and when a ship passes over, it gets a high magnetic signal. There's apparently a battery that's huge, And, they could have a battery this size, it could be 2 feet by 3 feet, or it could be 4 feet by 6 feet. A really huge battery that lasts for months or a year. And that mine is there and it's pinging, and when it gets a signal of a hole over it, it fires. It blows up, right? And that big blast comes up from under the water. It hits the bottom of the ship, and it could blow the ship clear out of the water. How big is the mine? How big do you want it? You're not putting it in a torpedo tube. You want a 5,000 pound mine, a 10,000 pound mine, a 500 pound mine. What do you want? The ones they had in World War II, they were round things. They were probably about like this, and they had spikes. Those were usually 1 or 2 or 3,000 pounds, and they would blow a really bad hole in the ship. Okay, so this thing could hit the hull, blow the ship out of the water, and break the hull in half. Probably easier if the ship is empty, is full of oil. The oil is probably going to make it harder, but it'll probably break it anyway or do something bad to it. Now you got missiles coming from on land, from Iran on land, hitting the ships. Then you got Iran launching drones from on land, hitting the ships. Now you got Iran with over 1,500 go-fast boats that they're probably 60 to 90 feet boats. They're civilian boats modified, sort of like a PT boat in a way. They're fast. They could go 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Okay, and the Persian Gulf is not the ocean with huge waves. They put anti-ship missiles on there. Okay, that's dangerous. They have mounted in the deck rather large guns, 50 cal, 20 millimeter, 30 millimeter. Okay, these guns can destroy civilian ships to shred them. You have to sit there, go, boom, 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 and that's it. By that time, the boat's on fire or in really bad shape. Then you got they could carry shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons and hit the hull of the ship. Boom, boom. They go a good mile or so. And they can launch torpedoes off the deck of the boat like the PT boats. You point the boat at your target ship, you fire the torpedo off one side or off the other. They usually use like compressed air or gas or something to throw the thing in the water, and then it starts going, and they can have it wire guided where the guys on the ship steer the torpedo, and no matter what the big ship does to get away, the torpedo's going to hit. And yeah, they'll blow some of these go-fast boats out of the water, but they're going to lose big ships, the Allies, America, and the other countries, okay? Then you've got Iranian ships that are drone carriers that have ramps to launch drones, and then you have disguised ships that look like container ships and other commercial vessels that launch missiles and drones. Then you got Iranian submarines. So do you understand the nightmare of opening the Straits of Hormuz after Iran has closed it? You've got about 6 layers. Let's review them. You've got naval mines, right? You have missiles launched from the Iranian land. You have drones launched from the Iranian land. You have drones launched from Iranian drone launcher ships. You have missiles launched from disguised Iranian missile launching ships. That's 6. You have go-fast boats with all their weapons. That's 7. Then you have submarines. That's 8. Then you got regular Iranian warships, destroyers. That's 9. So we've accounted for 9 layers of defenses that you have to get through to get those Straits of Hormuz opened up. Now, is it easier to get the Houthis in Yemen? Yes, a lot easier. But it's going to take a concerted effort. You're going to have to devastate. Look, it says Yemen winds up so demolished nobody ever lives in it again, ever. It's called Edom in the Bible. It's in Jeremiah 49 being destroyed. It's Edom. It gets wiped out forever. That is possibly Israel doing it, possibly several nations with or without Israel, and so forth. The primary problem to the nations is going to be to open up the Persian Gulf. Now they're gutless and they're fearful and they're afraid. And Iran could reach Europe with missiles. Can Iran reach America with missiles? Yes, but they would have to go off of the boats. So they send their big drone carriers and disguised missile boats to America, and they could hit America. Plus sleeper agents. Is it possible that Iran is going to launch the sleeper agents on America because Trump is going to take a very heavy hand against Iran when Iran closes the Persian Gulf? Yes. Is this a possible reason why Hegseth is calling 800 generals and admirals to Quantico on Tuesday? Yes. Combining it with Russia, of course. When Iran unleashes, will Russia unleash against NATO countries? Very possible. China just threatened America. China may unleash, and North Korea as well. And will all of that take the pressure off Israel? Oh gosh, that's 98% of it, 99% of it. Everybody's going to be worried about their own backyard. Palestinians can go fly a kite. We got to worry about our own gasoline prices. Mohammedanism will become about as popular as the bubonic plague. And Yemen and Iran and Iraq are Mohammedans. But they're not going to play nice anymore. They want to play hardball. But the problem is they're writing checks they can't cash. They can't deliver on this. And Trump is going to take the lead on this using NATO. And if he's got the support of, 10 or 15 good, substantial countries, with him, Argentina might kick in with him. Some other countries in South and Central America might kick in with him, right? He's already got ships in Panama. He might rally to the cause, and then Iran unleashes against him and the other Muslim states. So that could be the downfall of the daughter of Babylon. That I'm not sure if the Lord didn't show me much at all about that. It didn't show me at all anything about that. But the nations are going to have to rise up against Yemen and Iran and Iraq will join in. Iraq will they always say if Iran mobilizes us, consider us mobilized. Hezbollah doesn't get along with Iran, neither does Syria, neither does Jordan, but we don't know. They might mobilize. Saudi Arabia would probably mobilize against Iran, as would the Taliban in Afghanistan, as would Pakistan. Now, I don't know what the heck India will do. I really don't know. I think India's idea is let's wait for everybody in the world to go kill themselves, and then we'll be the top dog. But it don't work that way, India. The statue of the woman with 8 arms don't cut it. It's just a dumb piece of wood, and we do too. So it ain't going anywhere, dumbbell. Modi's just another mean transactional jerk. Okay, so what do we look at? We watch how this thing is going. Now, the gold prices they've gone over 38. Let me find it. They've gone over 3,800 and they were sustaining. Um, Let me give it to you. Gold within the last 24 hours hit a high of $3,814. Now, that's away from 4,000. 4,000 is an unbelievable uh, pressure point for gold prices. If it goes through 4,000, I think the cow is out of the barn, and you could expect anything, including $10,000, $12,000 for gold. I mean, I'm not kidding. You could expect anything, and it's almost at 4,000, and the show hasn't really started. The curtain hasn't even lifted on the next act yet. Okay, and when I checked earlier, it was down from 38.14 to 38.06, so it was holding over 3,800. Okay, when Iran lights this up, oh, we're closing the Straits of Hormuz, you're not going to just get 4,000. You'll get 4,000 like that. You're probably going to get 5,000 and more. This is going to weaken the currencies all around the world. All the paper money garbage will get weaker. All of it. Now, silver, let's not turn our back on silver. Silver went up to 46.95. It almost hit 47. Okay. The big pressure point against silver is 50. When it hits 50, it's going to be kind of on its way. Gold at 4,000 should get silver to 75. The shock value, you know. Gold at 5,000 should easily get silver to 100, easily. But don't think that this wouldn't push us right to 7,500 on gold. It might. And you might hit 250, 300 on a barrel of oil. They're going to cripple the economies of the world. That's what Iran's doing. They're going to say, you're taking me out, I'm going to take you out, with my friend Yemen and the Iraq. And what they'll do also is if America rises up, they'll attack his military bases in the region. And to further compound the problem and wreck the economy of the oil, they'll hit the oil refineries and the ports and the piers for Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. They'll leave Lebanon alone, which doesn't have that much oil, and they'll leave Yemen alone and Iraq alone. And I don't think they'll bother with Syria. They might start up with Syria, I don't know. This would give Israel a great opportunity to take over Damascus. Damascus from the Recipe, and to also finish off Hezbollah. See, it's going to let Israel, do a lot of things, because the nations are just going to be very, very, very worried about their own problems, and they're not going to be too interested in helping the Palestinians after the big Palestinian benefactor, Iran, is doing the same. They say, gee, these Muslims aren't very nice to us, are they? The fact that the currencies are going up so nicely just really means their end is coming. When is this going to start? Probably within a few days. Iran's not interested in Trump's threats and NATO's threats. They'll ignore it. They don't believe these countries have any credibility, and they don't believe they'll do anything to them. All right, let me see if I'm getting any questions. Thanks for all the greetings, folks. All right, now we're going to go talk about spiritual warfare. I'm going to open some more stuff up to you guys. And here we go. First, we have a communal demon toss. Just one. There's somebody, one of our people, is being bothered by two individuals that apparently are Satan bots, and they have, each of them has the same initial, K as in kilo. So the Lord knows who these two people are. So for K and K, I would ask you to demon toss K and K and bind the demons from not going back in them again, and bind all the demons from going in this K and K, these two people, again for a year continuously, or communicating with them or helping them or appearing to them for a year continuously for K and K. So I'm intentionally asking you to do it this way because you do it at different times of the day, and they aren't going to like that. They're going to stop going in, these people, and bothering. They're going to stop going in K and K, and they're not going to bother anybody. This K and K. Okay. We don't have to have two or more to agree to demon toss. It says in Mark, these signs shall follow them that believe in my name, they shall cast out devils. There's no need that you have to get more than one involved or anything like that. So, all right. Now, let me give you an update on eye contact and the unclean spirits. But I want to take a fast break for a minute. I'll come back. Okay, deeper than I have in the past. Now, I'm going to tell you the things that I've done with my experiences. I'm checking to make sure controls are good. Okay. The demon people like to work with eye contact. They look in your eyes. And this is one that's hosting a demon or demons inside them. It's not going to do them any good if they don't have a demon. Okay. And they could tell a lot about what you're thinking. Now, you know God communicates with you like with thoughts, right? Occasionally God talks to you, it sounds like somebody in the room is talking to you, but only you hear it. But usually it comes like a thought, okay? Telepathy, telepathy can be English word, I guess, but it doesn't really apply correctly. Yeah. Unclean spirits can do this with you too. They can give you thoughts, ideas, notions, make you think they're God. Remember, they come to you as an angel of light. Angel of light doesn't normally send you an email or an SMS or talk to you verbally. Okay? Now, they talk to their people verbally. And if you're around, you can hear them. I've used the voice activated tape recorder and got them on tape. I actually had Satan on tape. He's just a schmuck, believe me. Him and all his crew are a bunch of cowardly schmucks, okay? I just try to take advantage of the ignorant. That's all it is. You don't have to be afraid of him and them. They're afraid of you. You don't believe it's somebody, but they're really afraid of you. Now, I know they can do this when they're talking to you on the phone, some sort of a live communication, which would probably be over the internet also if it's live. With email, I don't believe they get anywhere. They might be able to put some sort of spell or something on the email, but in terms of really understanding what you're doing or seeing you and stuff like that, they can't. Now, I tested this talking to people that were demonic, and I started imagining horrible things in my thoughts to see how they would react, and they react. I tested it. Yeah, they can do it. This goes back to the 1990s. I'm on a cruise ship, and it's the first day of the cruise. We just got on the ship. And I like to get on the ships about 11, 12 o'clock. Usually sail away would be about 5 or 6. And just before sail away, like about 4, usually 3:34, they have the abandoned ship rehearsal. Now they do it in your room on a video. You just got to say you watched the video. But it used to be then you had to report to a certain part of the boat that was on the back of your door. They had a map of the boat and showed you where to go, a way station or something. And you had to take your life preserver out of the cabin, go to the way station, and they had you stand around like an idiot for 20 minutes in the heat sometimes, or sometimes you're inside. A real pain in the neck. And it's the law, it's not them. It was the law of the Coast Guard. And they'd show you how to use the whistle and how the light comes on the life preserver and how to put it on you, and then they'd check your name off the list. And it used to be you could just stay in your cabin and not go. It was a waste of time. I learned how to put life preservers on, and it didn't, in chaos, you're not going to probably ever get to the way station you're supposed to be at. You go to any place, you could get off the boat and get in a lifeboat, and that's, it's just nonsense. They since had the cabin attendants come and look in every cabin to make sure you weren't sitting this one out. So, I knew that I'd like to get there early. I'd like to eat, and I like to take a jacuzzi and hang around. It'd be like having an extra day on the cruise, where a lot of people would come at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and they would just get on. And I'd have a few hours to use the go to the buffet, go to the dining room. Maybe I'd go to the gym. I'd walk the jogging track, or I'd go sit in the jacuzzi, and I'd have a good time, or just lay in the sun. I liked it, so I'd have an extra, 4 or 5 hours. I would like doing that. So I a lot of times I had a suite, and with a suite you got right on quicker, and so I'm doing this, and I'm in the jacuzzi, and I'm on the outer deck exposed there, and they usually have a canopy over the jacuzzi so the sun doesn't beat down on you too much. Why do they do that? Because you're in the hot water in a hot climate, and then the sun's beating down on you, and probably people would pass out. So they keep the jacuzzis don't ever really get that hot. They don't let them get that hot, okay? And they keep them warm enough to work, but generally the jets are not strong enough to do too much work. It relaxes the muscles, and you have that canopy over the jacuzzi, so you don't get the sun on you. So talking to this guy, and he turned out to be a retired detective or cop from somewhere in Florida. This was in Florida, and I used to work in law enforcement, so I started talking to the guy. He just retired. He hit lieutenant or something, and or sergeant, something like that. He wasn't a captain, and or a colonel or anything. He just retired, and like within a month or two or something. So he was still talking about the job, but he was taking the cruise. Uh, and he kept looking at my eyes, and I was wearing. I still have these sunglasses to this day. They're great sunglasses, blue reflective mirror on them, not like this. They're a name brand sunglass I paid like $300 for back in the 1990s. So that would be like $1,000, $1,200 today. Good glasses. I still got them. I got them in my bedroom. These are probably better. These are Wiley. They're really highly featured. So they got a lot of good things about them, like polarized and mirrored. And so anyway, I'm wearing this, and they're full mirrors. You can't see the ice, and he kept trying to look in. So I realized he was a Satan bot after a while, right? So I wanted to test him. So when we got out of the jacuzzi, we had to get ready to go for that, the lifeboat drill, the life preserver lifeboat drill. So I wanted to test him, so we were still chatting. He never said he was a Christian or anything. So we were still chatting, and I took my sunglasses off, and then boom, his head snaps, and he starts staring at my eyes. And I started laughing at myself. I said, "Oh, jerk." So I didn't really want to start spiritual warfare with him. I just put my glasses back on, my sunglasses, and went away. It was a waste of my time. I tested him, and I got out of it what I wanted. Right? All right. So they could see a lot of what you see when you're on the phone with them. They could see what you're seeing. Okay. I've tested this, okay? I mean, if you want to scare them or something like that, you could have a picture of them on another device on your desk and take a gun out and point it at the picture while you're talking to them. That'd rattle them, and you get the results. You know, they're idiots. You can play with them. Okay, this is not a very big power. Now, could they do it if you're talking to them and you were wearing the sunglasses? Yeah, I believe they could. They could, because they're not coming in through your eyes this way. They're coming in a different way. All right. Now, these reasons, these things they do are part of the reasons that their disciples won't leave them. They don't want to imagine going back to a life where they don't have this power to do what? Worthless powers. Okay. So, how did I learn how to counter this back in the 90s? All right. I was working for a guy that was a Satan bot, and he was very discreetly trying to pull me into serving Satan. All right. So I was doing marketing for him, and I was doing a really good job for him, and he was making a lot of profit off of what I was doing, and he didn't want to lose me. And I think he was also trying to contain me for Satan by working for him. But I was an independent contractor. I was working out of the house. I didn't have hours, but I was conscientious about my work, and I tried to do a really good job for him, and it did work out well. Okay, and and I was at home and I was studying the scriptures. I was just back from living in Israel for a few years, and I'm in Israel now for many, many years. But back then, I was, at that point, I was studying different translations of the Bible, and I was looking to see if there were any songbooks that had correct Bible doctrine in them, and I found one that went back to the 1700s. That was it. But anyway, there was a meeting one day, and he had hired some sales reps. The sales rep. I was doing the advertising on the television, preparing the ads, and actually making the advertisements, and filming, and we had to run the ads, and a lot of things like that. So we were outside at the meeting, and one of the women that he hired looked at me, and then she snapped her head back like this or something, right? Like a bee stung her in the cheek or something. And what happened was this. I had said before that meeting, I command all you unclean spirits for the next 5 years or whatever, continuously beginning now, that if you're inside any person and that person does any evil eye contact, thought reading, or thought implanting, or evil eye, or any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, you shall immediately depart from that person right away with no delay, and not warning the person or telling the person what's going on, and never go back into that person again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, this is in place for a period of time, right? And that's what happened. She jolted. Okay? That was a nice test. I had other tests, which I can't recall, but it was similar results. Okay? They don't make it. Okay? So that's how you do that. Now, remember we read about Satan the accuser when he was up in heaven. He's not in heaven anymore. All right. And he would keep going to the Lord and accusing this one or that one, like Job and many others. Okay. So what Satan does, now this is the deeper stuff, okay, for you. They say, they're going to review, Satan and his disciples talk about the deeper things of Satan. There are no deep things of Satan, okay? These are my Lord's deeper ways of doing spiritual warfare, not the deeper things of Satan. Satan's a schmuck to the core, and all his unclean spirits and the people that serve him are the same way. Okay. And they're cursed people. They're pathetic, okay? And they're cursed so bad they don't even know they're cursed. They think they're blessed. You got to understand that. And that's how you have to think of them. All right. The accuser. So you put a 5-year or a 1-year thing, okay, for the next year, any unclean spirit and person that does any eye contact of an evil nature with me shall immediately depart from these people, never to return unto them again, nor warn them, nor educate them as to what happened after they depart. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, beginning now for a year continuously. And B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. Okay, I did that for real, let's say. Okay, Father God Jehovah, I do that for real now. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. Okay. Now, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from any person who is in this community on YouTube or my community on Twitter or Telegram that has the true gospel and walks in the true gospel. I command you to depart from any person you're in. Immediately, when that person attempts to do any evil eye contact, any eye thought reading or thought planting, or any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, or enchantments of any type aimed and directed at these people and their members of their household. You unclean spirits, whenever this activity initiates by the person you're in, you shall not warn the person beforehand. You will immediately, with no delay whatsoever, depart from this person as soon as the activity starts, and the activity shall not bear any evil fruit or any fruit at all. Okay, it is just null and void. And you shall never come back into these people again, nor shall you ever explain to these people what happened, nor shall any other unclean spirit explain to these people what happened, nor go in them for a period of 1 year continuously. And this binding is all done irrevocably. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I submit this to you, my heavenly Father, Jehovah, and you all can agree with it, even if it's a video when you're watching it. Okay? Now, does this do? Well, you'll find out as days go on. It's going to help you. Now, when you do a binding like this, what does Satan do? Because it doesn't always hold. Satan surveillances you and the unclean spirits. How? They might come in your house. They might get access to things you're doing. They may follow you around the street, whatever. What type? Now, if you're going to sin, like you're going to porn, or you're going to go get drunk, or shoot heroin, or start having adultery, the obvious sins, well, you're lost. This ain't helping you. Okay. But let's say you're not lost and you just make a mistake. You yell, you lose your temper, or you cut somebody off driving in a bad way, or something like that. You're not completely fair to your boss at work, or any little thing. The accuser mentality kicks in, and he'll try to kick against your binding on him to see if he could get through. You understand? Okay. If you went out and committed murder and adultery, obviously your binding's not going to hold, okay? Right? All right. So, because you give him place to the devil and you wouldn't be behaving like a believer. So he keeps testing it and trying it. Now, how have I found a way to stop from happening? Oh, I found a way. And will I tell you the way? Of course. Will I do it for free right now? Of course. Okay. How do you do it? You bind Satan and the unclean spirits from having any surveillance over you, from observing in your house or your property or your apartment or your vehicle or you, no matter where you are or what you do. You bind them from surveillancing you. Using any means at their disposal, people, technical things like cameras, the internet communications, anything possible, he cannot use against you. He cannot be within over your house or your apartment. They can't see you, listen to you, know you. They can't surveillance your pets. They can't, because then if they're surveillancing their pets, they're following you when you take your pets out. They can't surveillance you in your vehicle, and I doubt any of us have a plane or a boat. Okay, but if you did, just apply it to that. All your communications, they can't surveillance. All this big brother surveillancing stuff is to try to get sins on people for them and to know what people are up to. Okay, so this is how it works. We'll do it in phases. One phase. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, for the next 10 years, I'm not doing this for real because I've already done it, but for the next 5 years, continuously, you might say, I command you, unclean spirits, to come out from any person that steps foot on my property in my driveway, comes in contact with my vehicle, or comes into my house or my apartment or on my property or touches my gates or my doors. You unclean spirits shall immediately depart from that person the very instant such behavior begins. Turn unto him again, and no unclean spirit shall explain to him what happened, nor shall any unclean spirit go into this person or communicate with this person or help this person for 1 year continuously to the event. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. So what that does is stops people from coming into your house or on your property that have demons. Okay? Now you'll get some interesting reactions about workmen that will no longer come to your house. We had one. And it's pretty funny. Okay. Um, uh, I'm going to do this not for real, just for your sake, because I already have one in place. I command all you unclean spirits to not surveillance me, my family, my household, my animals, my pets, my vehicle, or any of our activities. You shall not observe us or know anything about where we go, what we do, what we say, what we don't do. You shall not be able to observe us in our house or on our property or anywhere. Whatever means you could bring to bear, you're not allowed to. So it's impossible for you to surveillance or observe us using people or any means at your disposal for the next 5 years continuously. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. So what you're doing when you do this is you're eliminating the accuser thing. Oh, look what he just did. He cut someone off in the freeway viciously. Let's kick against it and see if we can continue the curses on this person and the witchcraft and all. You see? So now they can't do that. You know how some of you wake up at night or early in the morning and you get a thought right away in your head and it's a bad thought? Not convicting. It could be the unclean spirits when you wake up and right away hit you with one of their darts or give you bad feelings, ominous, scary feelings and stuff like that. Okay? They're surveillancing you. They're in the house, so they're looking at you through the window or from outside or whatever and you just stop it. And then they'll go for telephone and internet and all that. So let's stop it all. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my heavenly Father, Jehovah, I bind all the unclean spirits from surveillancing, observing, collecting information or data, any of the people that have the true gospel that are following me on Twitter or Telegram or here, and their households. The unclean spirits are bound from doing any observation on them or vehicles or their activities wherever they are, or their animals and pets wherever they are. And they're also bound from entering any houses or properties of theirs. If they're in if they're in a living thing or a person, and the person who owns the house or the property or controls it allows or gives permission for that person to come into the property or the house, it excludes the unclean spirit in that person or living thing. They must immediately depart from that person the very instant they begin to enter the property or the home or the vehicle. Or if anyone touches their vehicle or comes in their driveway, the unclean spirit shall immediately depart from them. If anyone touches these people without permission, the unclean spirits shall immediately depart from that person. And they shall not use any technical means of surveillancing these people, nor people to surveillance these people, nor animals or living things to surveillance these people. And all this applies to, of course, me and my wife, and all the people that are having the true gospel, that are following the teachings on the internet that I have. And this is all done B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach for 5 years continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that. So now you're going to find your long-term bindings are going to be long-term bindings. Okay? That's something to grin about. You'll have a good time with this one. Remember I said if anyone touches you, so that could be like a pickpocket, that could be somebody provoking you, pushing you, an assault, anything. It's not necessarily a burglar alarm, because a lot of jerk junkies and idiots that are not, you know, Satan bots may try to rob someone's house, but the Lord will protect your house. You don't have to bind for that. You know, He'll take care of you there. You know, but, this is a really big thing. Now, if you're going to play with these people and you pick up somebody doing it to you, you know, the demons should come out of them. So I wouldn't suggest you go try to play with them and, you know, imagine yourself picking up a machete and hacking their head off. I mean, that would stun them and scare them, but don't do that. Just keep them away. And now, why was I doing things like this? I was out there all by myself, and with the Lord, of course, but I had nobody to sit down and teach me. I had to find my way through this myself, and this was going on in the 90s, early 90s, and I didn't think it was possible. I used to cry to the Lord. This was in Israel. I was praying in the Spirit all day. I wasn't working. I was getting unemployment insurance, which is generous in Israel. And I was belly aching that, you know, I can't learn it like this. Send me an angel, send me somebody, you know, and there was nobody to send it. He didn't send an angel. And he was just telling me, you'll get it out of the Word. And he was right. It's all in there. And then comes experience. You have the Word, word, and then it becomes experience, Like you learn how to not sin, the word tells you not to sin, and then you learn not to sin, and stuff like that, right? So you learn how to do this, and it's warfare. In warfare, you got to train, you got to practice, and on the way up, learning to be a good fighter, you're going to take some lumps and bruises. God's going to always pick you up. You fall 7 times, He's going to pick you up. He'll keep picking you up, but you're going to, until you get good at it, you might make some mistakes. So I try to short circuit your mistakes and eliminate them and share with you what I've learned the hard way, you know. It wasn't that hard, but it was hard. I didn't think I could do it, you know. Remember, their biggest defense against you is to try to make you think it doesn't work. And they think, oh, the believers are nothing. They sin all the time, and we can just take care of it and, continue. You stop. Okay? And not only when you bind them from surveillancing and coming in and on your property, you're going to find out, one more. Hashem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind all the unclean spirits from communicating with any of the people that follow me with the true gospel and have the true gospel. I bind all you unclean spirits for 5 years continuously, beginning now, from communicating with any of us or any of us that live in the same house as we do. You shall no longer communicate with any of these people in any way, shape, or form. Through people, through the internet, directly, it doesn't matter. No darts, no thoughts, ideas, notions, dreams, visions, no impersonating the Holy Spirit or the Lord or being an angel of light. None of that. It's all over. You can't do it anymore for 5 years continuously, beginning now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And agree with that. You true believers, I must just ask the true believers, in that way, we're using the keys of the kingdom to knock Satan upside the head over and over and over again, and the other unclean spirits. And this is going to lead to us being together so we could get to the point where, it says if, 2 or more on earth agree, it'll be done of them by my heavenly Father for binding and loosing. But then the next verse, it says that when 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. We're not at that yet because we're not gathered together in his name yet, but we will be soon. And we need a place to take people that are new to the true gospel, or places, okay? They use houses for this. So how would I envision the way these houses would work? Well, you'd have to get the right people and, somebody there or somebody's there, maybe some women that aren't working or something would hang out and they would, there'd be tea and coffee and cookies and stuff on the stove, maybe more substantial food for people that might be hungry. And there'd be some men coming in there too, hanging out, and people drop in. So it'd be people coming in and out all day. It'd be a lot of fun, a lot of praying for people, a lot of counseling and helping people, and a lot of spiritual warfare, of course. We certainly don't do without that. I mean, people would be singing, people would be sharing victories and good experiences and what's happening and sharing current events in the secular realm. It would be fun, Church was every day, okay? If church is going to be taking a day off, I'm calling it church, it would be, the Shabbat where everybody just rests. But would people still go to the house on Shabbat? Yeah, if you're within a reasonable distance of the, a Shabbat day walk, which is supposedly a kilometer. I thought it was about half a kilometer, but you can you can certainly go there and hang out, and see what happens. And there's no prohibition regarding spending Shabbat with your friends and family, as long as you live near each other. Don't get in the car and drive to them. That's not right. But if you live in the same community, see, everything in redemption is going to change. We're going to be very, very close with our families. And when your kids grow up and get married, you're going to put a house on your house. Build a wing or go 50 feet away and put a house up. You'll have the land, or something like that. That's how it's going to be. So you'll be with your family. Now, it's not going to be over obsessed with the family. Remember what Yeshua said. The believers are your family. Okay? Most of the people today consider their flesh family their family. And they run around chasing the flesh family where 99% of them are not believers. Not that you should ignore your family, but it makes me scratch my head. But again, we're not in physical direct fellowship with each other. We're just on the internet. Let me take a look at the live stream. Why are all nations attacking Netanyahu? He doesn't have any demons to attack him. Well, we counterattack them too. So let me check my notes and see if I'm leaving anything out here that I was wanting to cover on the spiritual warfare. If you get mirrored sunglasses, it stops a lot of their crap, by the way. Walking in the street and stuff. They get really confused. Buy a cheap pair of mirrored sunglasses, full mirror, not partial mirror, full mirror, like these things. I mean, that they can't see nothing. Go get within 4 or 5 inches of a bright mirror and make sure you don't see anything in your eyes. That's a full mirror. And walk around in a mall and watch the reactions you get. Stare at them behind your sunglasses. You'll get reactions. Not a ton of them, but you'll get some. When you're getting spiritual warfare, it could come in a couple of ways. Let me explain. You can command the unclean spirits to come out of people doing it, and they will, and they have to go to the pit. You could add on that they have to stay in the pit, say, a year, okay? And now comes the concept of an unclean spirit bothering you that's not in a person. How do you deal with that, jackass? Any unclean spirit, okay, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my heavenly Father, any unclean spirit that does any evil spiritual warfare at any of the people with the true gospel in this group that are walking in the true gospel, anytime an unclean spirit, not in a person, attempts to do any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, aimed directed at targeting this person or his household directly or indirectly, trying to go through other people or other entities to affect this person. None of these things shall work, and the unclean spirit that attempts to do this, the very instant they begin to do it, they have to go to the place unclean spirits go where they're thrown out of somebody, even though they're not in somebody, and stay there for 1 year continuously. And I set this binding and command on the unclean spirits in place, presented to you, my heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. So this is another little trick of theirs. They'll send an unclean spirit at you that's not in a person, and you start throwing it out of a person, and it has no effect on the unclean spirit. But now it'll have an effect on the unclean spirit. Remember, if you got faith, you can tell the mountain to go throw itself in the ocean, and it will. So you could definitely tell the unclean spirit to throw itself in the pit, and it will. Yuck, yuck, yuck. That's what the Three Stooges would say. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Well, Curly, actually. The other one, what was his name? I don't know. Shem? No. The leader. You go, you, you know. All right. They were Jewish, those guys, you know. They were related. They were very funny in a very immature way. Abbott and Costello were very funny in more of an adult way. Some of the greats. They talk about, Lewis and Martin, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. I never thought that funny. I thought Jerry Lewis was an idiot, and I never really thought he was that funny. And Dean Martin was a pretty talented TV personality for a Satan bot. He was drunk, and he was a singer, and he was a failure at life, but he had some qualities for entertainment, not a lot. They're all Satan bots. These people that are revered as great actors and this and that, and acting is, as they portray it, is lying. Okay, that's it. They just get on and tell lies anyway. That stuff is all going to go away forever. Okay, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for blessings on all the true believers that are walking in the true gospel, that are in the group. I pray for blessings on them. And I pray for you to remove the problems in their life put on them by the corporations, which are all Satan's works. That's all they are. And the false religions and bad, mean, evil people that are bothering them or making difficulties for them anywhere in their life, whatever it is. I pray you remove these problems from them. I pray you stop the unclean spirits from interfering with them having money and getting money. And I pray we all make it comfortably through these tough times ahead. And I pray you correct our end times doctrine, and we learn more, and we walk in the truth, and we don't make mistakes or walk in them or believe them or teach them. And I pray you pour out your spirit on us with your peace, your joy, your calm, your rest, your relaxation, your patience, and your love. And then we learn to walk in love as well. And we have a good time. We learn to love you more and serve better and do things your ways, not our ways. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm pretty sure you got something out of this. You can always email me. My email address is in the bottom of the description box. It's israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. And that's what I got for today. And remember, this year in Jerusalem, hopefully, looks like maybe, yeah, looking good. Okay, kids, I'm out. Looking good, looking good.